U.S. Marine Corps fighter pilot and author of God Talks, Ed Rush. Ed, thanks for being here with us. As I look at this war, it seems to be in an escalatory phase. Do you share that view?
Yeah, I mean, war is hard. Like, so we live in the United States with these wonderful oceans on either side. I remember talking to my grandmother as I was asking her about World War I or World War II, and she said, we just knew the boys would be home whenever the war was over, and that was 3 years. My grandfather left in 42 and came back in 45, and I think as Americans we've gotten used to this sort of like war is so easy. What war is really hard, and it's getting harder. I think the Iranian regime has been depleted fairly significantly, Matt. I think their ability to shoot missiles is down quite a lot. That said, it's still a war. It's a really big country, and it's a hard war to get out of, frankly. I don't see a lot of options for the president except continuing on this route for right now.
Where does that route take us? Does it take us to the IRGC not being in charge of the country? And if that's the case, who would be in charge?
Yeah, I would hope so. By the way, I think there's really three off-ramps. Off-ramp number one is we put boots on the ground and we literally do what we usually do in war,
That's
like we did in World War II.
Boots on the ground is an off-ramp?
Well, I'm saying there's three options. Yeah, that's one. That is literally one. Option two is the Iranian people rise up and depose their leadership. And option three, which I think is the least effective option, is some sort of compromise where literally we go back to baby Ayatollah or the second baby Ayatollah and make some kind of a deal, which they're going to break 10 years from now.
Well, yeah, I don't believe in the people are going to rise up theory because they haven't. There's sort of a window for those things to occur. I don't see that window being currently open. And the IRGC is going to run the country until there's someone else who defeats them and demands their surrender. And right now, like an IRGC person on the streets of Tehran wouldn't even have anyone to surrender to. I do want to understand your knowledge about air power and what we're seeing right now, because America seems to have total control over Iran's skies. In your experience, what decision-making does that unlock for President Trump?
Yeah, it unlocks a lot, by the way. I mean, one of the things that we do really well, my background is a Marine fighter pilot, graduated from Top Gun. So the Air War is really my expertise. And the first 2 weeks, we do something called rolling back the IADs. Basically, what you're facing are enemy aircraft, enemy long-range missiles, enemy short-range missiles, and then essentially some dude on the ground with a gun in de-escalating order. And the job of our air forces, the Air Force, Marine, Navy, Air Forces, are to go in and essentially roll those back. Those are totally rolled back. The only thing that we're seeing coming out of Iran right now are unmanned drones, largely launched from areas which we don't have access to because they're moved or mobile or they're hidden. But right now, there's no air defenses at all. That gives pretty much every option for us on the table. We can bring troops on the ground. We can bring troops on the beaches. We can bring troops through the air. If they can't shoot us down and we have air superiority, we have total control. And the other thing we have control over, which is really important when you have air control or air superiority, is usually you have comm superiority. You've taken out most of their interconnected communication nodes. It makes it very difficult for command and control to move people around the country, which is why essentially what we're in is an insurgency war at the moment. We're kind of in like year 3 in Iraq right now. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens when it comes to the leadership of the country, because that's a very hard nut to crack and hard group to extricate when there's like one cleric after another who can roll into a new position.
Yeah, it does seem the regime has demonstrated some resiliency to this point, but what hasn't demonstrated resiliency is that air defense infrastructure. Like, this has got to be kind of a wake-up call to the Russians, right? A lot of these SAM 400s that the Iranians were using were purchased from Russia, and we've just straight smoked them. What kind of value does that provide for us, just our knowledge base going into war games and thinking about these air defense systems that just did not hold up against U.S. materiel?
Yeah, and not so surprising. I mean, I'd say it's also a little bit of a wake-up call to the Chinese. Look, Americans have had air superiority pretty much wherever we've gone. That wasn't always the case on the electronic spectrum. I think in this case, it was clearly visible. And Iran had some old gear, true, like some pretty old gear. And the real downside to the Russian-made gear isn't so much the gear, it's the training that's behind it. The Russian approach to doing warfare is very centralized in its command structure. And when you start taking out communication systems, you take out like literally complete batteries because they can't talk to each other. And so, yeah, I think it was a big wake-up call for Russia, who frankly has very old technology or getting older, and very, very old training and tactics. And it's definitely a wake-up call for the Chinese. I think as Americans, we still need to be on the top of our game. And I think what this war is starting to teach us is the importance of the automated or the drone war, which I think is the next war.
Truly, we are learning that manned systems like the ones you flew may be less relevant to who owns the skies and who's able to dictate outcomes than some of these unmanned systems.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live. OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.